Hello! In my previous video I showed you a house in Carpathians. Well, not a house exactly, but a land plot with magnificent view. Throughout that video I talked about pluses of living in those mountain villages in Carpathians. How nice it is, how clean is the air, how clean is the water. But of course there are also minuses of living in such villages in the mountains. And in this video I will talk about minuses of living in such village. I also recommend you to watch my previous videos if you haven't watched them, and links to those videos will be in the description, where I shared a lot of information of living in countryside in Ukraine. And now we will add more information about living in Ukrainian village in a Carpathian region, in mountain village. I know about this very well because I researched this subject for quite a long period of time during 2021. I planned to build several houses with some of my friends in Carpathian region. And in 2022 we planned to go to Carpathian and to look for a land plot where we could build like 8 or 10 houses. But on 24th of February 2022 war started in Ukraine. And I can say that on 24th of February 2022 all those plans of building houses in Carpathian region were buried under those mountains. Okay, enough of words, let's talk about minuses of living in Carpathians and in villages that are in mountain areas. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Like the video, subscribed? Great, let's begin then. First minus is the price. Price usually is very high of buying house and land in such mountain areas. And price is not just high, it is very high. Comparing to the village in central Ukraine where you can buy a house and a very big land plot for just like 4, 5 or 6,000 US dollars, in Carpathian village only land plot will cost about $10,000. Only the land plot. And these days it is a very big problem to find the right land plot, because there are no small land plots left in Carpathian region. Well, there are small land plots, but price for them are pretty high. So many people buy a big land plot and then they divide that land plot into smaller land plots. And they make pretty good money selling those smaller land plots after that. But that's another story. Second minus has to do with the roads in mountain areas. If you buy a land plot that costs around $100,000, most probably roads will be okay or average to that land plot. If we are talking about land plot that costs around $10,000 or $15,000, road to that land plot will be either bad or there will be no road at all. And most probably you will have to buy a 4x4 vehicle, but that 4x4 car should have a special suspension for driving in real off-road conditions. There might be a bad road that has to be fixed, or there will be no road at all and you'll have to make a new road from the scratch. And if there is no road at all and you have to build a new one, well, it will not be a road with asphalt and, you know, the road that can be driven by any car. It will be a road that can be driven by a 4x4 vehicle, and in 2021 price of making such road was $1,500 for each 100 meters of road. So, for example, if you have to make something like 800 meters of road, it would already be around 10,000 US dollars just to make a road to your land plot that can be driven by 4x4 vehicle. If there is already a bad road there that has to be fixed, well, fixing costs less money, of course. But even if you make a new road, it has to be fixed after 3 or maybe 5 years, and you'll have to invest in that road again. So when you're looking for a house or a land plot in Carpathians, road must be considered maybe as the most important thing, because making and fixing road is pretty expensive. Third, water. And with water there are pluses and minuses. Water in the mountains is of the best quality. We all are made up of 80% of water, and some tax authorities claim that the rest 20% is VAT. That's a joke. That's a joke that I heard from a tax inspector a long time ago. But if you buy a land plot or a house where nobody lived for a long period of time, it may happen that a well has been dried, and now you have to dig even deeper to access the water. And drilling the land in mountains is not cheap at all. If the well has dried up, you'll have to pay maybe several thousands of dollars or euros just to get access to the water. In small villages in the mountains, there are no centralized water supply, and well is your only source of water. Fourth, heating. During the winter, and actually during 6 months from October until April, it is pretty cold in the mountains, and especially during the nighttime. In most Carpathian villages, even in some big Carpathian villages, there is no centralized gas in those villages, so you'll have to heat either with wood or with coal. Some also use some special pellets for heating, but those pellets are not so efficient. It will be mostly wood or coal. Well, in Carpathian it smells pretty nicely if you visit Carpathians in October and in March, when everybody is heating their houses with wood and how wood is burning and smell is pretty nice. But it is not very convenient to heat with wood or with coal, because you have to control all the time how much wood or coal is burning, and it's not pretty cheap either. So heating is the problem, and you have to get prepared for the winter especially. Fifth, transportation. In Carpathians, if you live in a village, car is a must. You must have a car. And if village is small, it should be a 4x4 vehicle. In central Ukraine, it is enough to buy a small car for about $5,000 or $6,000. But in Carpathians, you will need a 4x4, and most probably it will have to be with a special suspension. And it should be with a special modified suspension, or you will have to invest in this special modified suspension about $3,000, $4,000 or even $5,000. More or less good 4x4 SUV with modified suspension costs around $20,000. Well, you can sell it pretty easily for $15,000 or $16,000 if you need to sell it fast. Sixth, no infrastructure. Especially in small villages in the mountains, there are no shops, no pharmacies, nothing at all. You have to plan very carefully what you need, and you have to buy it in advance. Maybe you have to go to a bigger village or a nearby city and buy something once per week, and you have to plan it very carefully. If you want to order some pizza or sushi, just forget about it. You will not be able to do that. Also, there is not even a post office or any delivery companies that are present in those villages. So if you want to order something, you would have also to go to a bigger village or to a nearby city and receive those parcels that you order from somewhere in that bigger village or in a city. It may not be such a big problem, because once a week you will be driving to a nearby village anyway for buying some food or tools. But if you want to have something fast or to be delivered something fast, well, you will just have to wait for a couple of days minimum. Seventh, very few people around. It might be a plus, of course, but it is a big minus also. If you want something to be fixed, or if you want to build something, it will be a very big problem, because you will have to find somebody from a nearby big village or even a nearby city. And because of logistics, price of such building or fixing will be pretty high. Maybe even 2 or 3 times higher than in a similar village somewhere in the central Ukraine. So, for example, if you need to repair your fence, or maybe do some maintenance to your roof, or maybe installing a solar panel, just be prepared that it will cost 2 times more than in other villages if you bought a house somewhere in the central part of Ukraine. Eighth, pretty severe winters. I must say, it is very beautiful in small villages during the winter in the mountains. But if you want to drive to a nearby bigger village or a small city in the winter, most probably it will be a very big challenge for you. Road will not be cleaned from snow, and if you don't have a special transport, most probably you will not be able to get out from your house for a week or even several weeks. If there are tourist businesses in that mountain village where you live, they will take care of cleaning the road to their businesses. But land and houses in such villages will be much more expensive, and thus less likely you'll buy a house or a land plot in that village. It will cost from around 60, 70 or even 80,000 US dollars. Ninth, no health care in those villages. In small villages in Carpathians, there are no pharmacies, no doctors, nobody to help. If you have some health issues and require medical assistance, well, living in Carpathians is just not for you. Even if you call an ambulance, well, especially during winter, nobody will come to you, nobody will help. And you will ask, okay, people live in such villages in Ukraine. How do they get that emergency help if there is a need for such help? And it's a very good question. Their relatives who live with them would most probably drive by car to a nearby big village or a nearby small city and get doctor from there and will bring doctor to that village. Doctor will do all the manipulations and then they will take that doctor back to their bigger village or a smaller city, and that's the only way. So it's either relatives would do who live with you, or your very good friends who live just next to you. Otherwise you are on your own and very unlikely that somebody will help you. Well, maybe neighbors will help, but that's maybe. If they have a car, if they are willing to go to a nearby village, a nearby city, spend time, spend petrol, and well, that's maybe. That will not be guaranteed, especially during the winter. 10th, but it is pretty important. Knowledge of Ukrainian language. In Carpathian villages, even in big ones, I think nobody or very small percentage speak even basic English. They all speak Ukrainian. Maybe some of them work in Romania, in Hungary, in Poland during summertime, and they may speak some Romanian, some Polish, some Hungarian, maybe some Slovakian language, which is pretty similar to Russian. But they would not speak English. And if you are planning to live in Ukrainian village, you need to know some Ukrainian, because especially in mountain villages, you will have to buy maybe some chicken, maybe some meat, maybe some berries from your neighbors. There is no need to go to a big city to buy those stuff. Even bread, some people cook bread in their houses and sell it. But you have to know some Ukrainian to communicate with those people. There are of course some other minuses, and there are a lot of pluses of living in such mountain villages in Carpathians. But just you have to know that if you have some health issues, some health problems, maybe living in the mountains in those faraway villages. They're not faraway villages, they are maybe 10 kilometers away from the main road or 15 kilometers, like 10 miles from the main road. But to drive that distance may be a real challenge even during winter time. So if you have health problems living in the village, even though it has clean air, clean water, no pollution, I think it will not be for you. On the other hand, as you know, people who live in the mountains live much longer than those people who live in the cities. That's statistics, and only you have to decide whether you want to live in the mountain village. I hope you found this information useful. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. If you need my personal assistance, help or advice, feel free to email me at my email address, and I'm always glad to help those people who really need help. Please let me know in comments, what do you think of living in such place, in the mountain village of Carpathians or in any other mountain village in any other country? Would you want to live in such village, away from people, with clean air, with clean water, away from pollution, away from those city noises, and so on and so on? And in the meantime, I wish you all good luck, success, happiness, joy, tranquility, and of course, stay healthy and wealthy.